Have you ever bought beautiful, crisp cucumbers, only to find them soft, watery, and slimy just a few days later? It happens in kitchens everywhere. You open the fridge expecting something fresh and healthy, and instead you find a vegetable that looks tired, rubbery, and ready for the trash. And the worst part is this. Most people think cucumbers simply do not last long, but that is not completely true. The truth is, cucumbers are one of the most delicate vegetables in your refrigerator. They are packed with water. They react badly to the wrong temperature, and they absorb moisture in ways that make them spoil much faster than people realize. One small storage mistake can ruin the entire batch. But today, you are going to learn the best way to keep cucumbers fresh for weeks, not just for a few extra days. We are talking about a simple method that helps protect their crunch, their flavor, and their texture much longer than normal. And stay with me until the end, because I am also going to show you the storage mistakes that secretly destroy cucumbers, the best place to keep them, and one easy trick that can help prevent that soggy, slimy disaster almost nobody talks about. Because once you understand how cucumbers really behave, you will never store them the same way again. Topic 1. Why cucumbers spoil so fast? Cucumbers look strong on the outside, but biologically, they are very fragile. They contain a very high percentage of water, and that is exactly why they lose freshness so quickly. The same water that makes them refreshing to eat also makes them vulnerable to dehydration, softness, and internal breakdown. Think of a cucumber almost like a water-filled sponge wrapped in thin protective skin. When the environment around it is too cold, too wet, too dry, or exposed to certain gases from nearby fruits, that balance begins to collapse. First, the cucumber loses firmness. Then, it starts to wrinkle. Then, the inside becomes watery, mushy, or even slimy. From a food science perspective, cucumbers continue breathing after harvest. They release and respond to moisture and gases in storage. That means they are still alive in a sense, and the conditions around them determine how long they stay crisp. This is why simply throwing cucumbers into the refrigerator without thinking can actually shorten their life. Many people assume colder is better, but cucumbers do not always respond well to extreme cold. Insomma, causes the wrong fridge zone can damage them faster than room temperature would for a short period. That is why proper storage is not just about keeping them cold. It is about controlling moisture, protecting the skin, and reducing exposure to the things that trigger faster. Topic to the biggest mistakes that ruin cucumbers. One of the biggest mistakes people make is washing cucumbers before storing them. It may seem smart to clean them first, but extra moisture sitting on the skin can speed up. Water trapped on the surface encourages breakdown and makes it easier for soft spots and slime to form. Another major mistake is storing cucumbers near ethylene-producing fruits. Fruits like bananas, apples, avocados, peaches, and tomatoes release a natural gas called ethylene. This gas helps fruits ripen. But for cucumbers, it can be a disaster. It pushes them to age faster, soften more quickly, and lose freshness before their time. Then there is the mistake of placing cucumbers in the coldest part of the refrigerator. Many people tuck them deep in the back of the fridge, thinking that will preserve them best. But cucumbers can suffer chilling injury when stored too cold for too long. That can lead to pitting, watery spots, faster decay, and an unpleasant texture. And there is one more common problem. Sealing cucumbers in a way that traps too much moisture. An airtight bag with condensation inside may look protective, but that trapped humidity can become the perfect environment for. So if your cucumbers keep going bad, it does not always mean they were poor quality when you bought them. Sometimes the real problem begins the moment they enter your kitchen. Topic 3. The best way to store cucumbers for weeks. Now let's talk about the best method. The ideal way to keep cucumbers fresh longer is to store them dry, wrapped, and protected from excess moisture while still allowing a little breathing room. One of the easiest and most effective methods is this. Gently dry the cucumbers completely. Wrap each one individually in a clean, dry paper towel and place them inside a loose plastic bag or container in the refrigerator's crisper drawer. Why does this work so well? The paper towel acts like a moisture buffer. It absorbs excess surface humidity without drying the cucumber out too much. That helps reduce the wet conditions that often lead to slime and softness. The loose bag or container adds another layer of protection. It helps prevent too much moisture loss into the refrigerator air, which can make cucumbers shrivel. But because it is not tightly sealed, it also reduces the risk of condensation building up around the cucumber. This balance is the secret. Not too wet, not too dry, not too cold. If your refrigerator has a vegetable drawer with moderate humidity control, that is often the best place. It protects cucumbers from the harshest cold and helps stabilize the environment around them. And here's a practical habit that makes a big difference. Check the paper towel every few days. If it feels damp, replace it with a dry one. That small step can extend freshness noticeably. This method is simple, inexpensive, and far better than tossing cucumbers into the fridge naked and hoping for the best. Topic 4. Should you keep cucumbers on the counter or in the fridge? This is where many people get confused. Fresh whole cucumbers can stay on the counter for a short time, especially if your kitchen is cool. In fact, if you plan to eat them within 1 or 2 days, room temperature may be perfectly fine. Sometimes they even keep a better texture that way than they would in a very cold fridge. But if you want them to last for a week or more, the refrigerator is usually the better choice. The key is simply storing them correctly, not just refrigerating them carelessly. Picture this. A cucumber left on a warm kitchen counter may look fine at first, but every hour it is slowly losing water into the air. Over time, it begins to soften and wrinkle. On the other hand, a cucumber placed in the wrong cold zone of the refrigerator may suffer cold damage. So the answer is not counter versus fridge in a simple way. It is about duration and conditions. For short-term storage, a cool countertop away from sunlight can work. For longer-term storage, the crisper drawer with the paper towel method is the better option. And once a cucumber has been cut, the refrigerator is no longer optional. A cut cucumber loses moisture rapidly and is exposed to bacteria and oxidation much more easily. That means it must be wrapped and refrigerated right away. The practical takeaway is simple. Whole cucumbers for quick use can stay out briefly, but for long-lasting freshness, proper refrigerated storage wins. Topic 5. How to store cut cucumbers without losing crunch. A whole cucumber is one thing. A cut cucumber is another story entirely. Once you slice into a cucumber, you expose the inside flesh directly to air. That speeds up water loss, texture breakdown, and microbial growth. In simple terms, the clock starts ticking much faster. The best way to store a cut cucumber is to keep the cut side protected. If you only used half, pat the exposed side dry very gently, then wrap it tightly with plastic wrap or place it in a sealed container lined with a dry paper towel. That paper towel helps absorb excess moisture that would otherwise make the cucumber watery and slippery. If the cucumber is already sliced, store the slices in an airtight container with a dry paper towel inside. This helps preserve some crispness and prevents liquid from pooling at the bottom. But there is an important truth here. Cut cucumbers will never last as long as whole ones. That is why it is better to cut only what you need if you want the freshest texture for salads, snacks, or infused water. Keeping cucumbers whole until the last minute is one of the smartest habits you can build. A practical tip many people love is to prep cucumbers in thicker chunks rather than very thin slices. If you are storing them for later, thicker pieces tend to hold their crunch better. And if you notice excess water collecting in the container, do not ignore it. Drain it, replace the paper towel, and use the cucumbers soon. That quick action can save your snack before it turns soggy. So what is the best way to keep cucumbers fresh for weeks? It comes down to a few simple rules. Keep them dry, never store them wet, wrap them in paper towel, place them in a loose bag or container, keep them away from ethylene-producing fruits, and store them in the right part of the refrigerator instead of the coldest spot. When you understand this, everything changes. Your cucumbers stay firmer, your salad stays fresher, your food waste goes down, and your healthy habits become easier to maintain. Because fresh food is ready when you need it. Sometimes the difference between a spoiled vegetable and a crisp, refreshing cucumber is not money. It is just knowledge. And in the kitchen, small knowledge can save a lot. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next health and food-saving tips. And tell me in the comments, how do you usually store cucumbers on the counter or in the fridge? I would love to hear your experience. And if you know someone who always ends up with soft, slimy cucumbers, share this video with them. It might save their groceries next week.